evening, teachers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome and thank you for attending this our developmentally appropriate practices workshop. We'll be utilizing standard 3 from the best practices for interactions and relationships with children between the ages of 3 to 5 years old. We'll be looking at inappropriate and appropriate practices, as well as some activities and some child development principles. Description of the standard we'll be using, standard 3. Standard 3 is the best practices for interactions and relationship with children between the ages of 3 to 5 years old. Using this standard, teachers, as teachers in early childhood education, we must possess characters and we should be trained to have the knowledge and skills as well as the correct attitude to promote positive behaviors in children, while at the same time attempting to reduce the challenging behaviors. As teachers who have we need to have positive relationship with children because it's significant and more likely to impact their behavior, because children pay attention more to teachers who are responsive and caring. When we as teachers interact with children, we give them an opportunity to develop positive relationships. The purpose of this workshop is to ensure that as teachers we understand the importance of developmentally appropriate practices and inappropriate practices based on the standard 3 in the best practices for interaction and relationships in the early childhood for children between the ages of 3 to 5 years old. We will look at inappropriate practices, after which we'll examine the appropriate practices that are best for fostering the self-esteem and constructive behavior, and also to remind us as teachers about the significance of interacting and forming relationships, as these form the foundation for children's emotional health and their well-being in the early years. The aim of this workshop is to promote development and to enhance the learning of every child in our school. We'll now look at some inappropriate practices in accordance with the standard. The second one in standard 3 talks about preferential treatment, verbal and non-verbal, as directed towards some children. We should not, as teachers, we show preference for one gender over another, and we tend to ignore religious belief and cultural practices. As teachers as well, we interact with the large groups and pay little or no attention to small groups. The best practices for those would be, as teachers, we accept children as they are, do not show discrimination, and we undertake the work with children in small groups, because in small groups, learning takes place better. We continue with inappropriate practices. As teachers, we demonstrate a lack of empathy for children's emotion, and we tend to be harsh and dismissive. Sometimes a child is crying, and we would tell the child, stop crying, nothing is wrong with you, not taking into consideration that no opportunities are given for free expressions. And as teachers, our voice tone and our facial expressions sometimes are frightening to the children. We have to pay attention to that. And we interrupt and take control of situations. We give little or no opportunity to the children to express or explain things about themselves. The emphasis is always on the right answer. The best practice that goes with that is that we should demonstrate enjoyment and affection and acknowledge children's feelings and fears. Try to alleviate their fears. Understand the importance of shared emotions as a way for the children to learn about express their emotions. We have to give them a chance to smile. We have to be careful with our verbal responses and our body language. We have to be calm with them because we have to remember that they are still in the early stages and they are modeling us. Whatever we do, they are paying attention to us. And we have to listen patiently and respectfully to their ideas and their views. We continue with inappropriate practices. We look at standard 6. We expect children to behave and act beyond their stage. Sometimes we see them older than they are, and we don't think about them in their developmental stage. We have them sitting for long periods, and this is some inappropriate practices that we really have to pay attention to. We also expect them to control their emotions. At times we get frustrated and we shout, we slam the desk, we call them names, and we look now at the best practices for those. We need to demonstrate a knowledge of understanding of the children, because we were trained in that area. We need to interact with them in a developmentally appropriate manner, and we need to have the knowledge and skills to support their emerging skills as they learn how to become aware of the needs and the rights of others in their environment. And now we come to the activities that support the practices. We can have activities like have the children acting out stories, dramatizing. When we have finished reading the story to them, we can set up a grocery store in our classroom where they can learn mathematical skills, counting money, reading labels, vocabulary skills, communicating with each other. And we as the teachers, we can model the entire shop behavior. We can have them use Legos for counting, and have them make patterns using their own creative skills. They can use puzzles for counting, and most of all, we have to make sure that we assemble them in small groups and work with them in small groups. We can have them ask questions. They can watch a video and ask questions, and in this way they enhance their free oral expressions, comprehension, their vocabulary skills, and their memory skills. And we have some examples of some activities that we can perform in the classroom. We see the teacher reading, we see a small group, we see a grocery store, we see the children dramatizing, and the children using manipulatives. These are all examples that we can use. Then we go now to the child development principles that can be used with these practices. As teachers, we can provide opportunities for the children to learn and to work collaboratively in groups with others, and to construct knowledge and to develop social skills such as the problem-solving skills, sharing and cooperating. We can also plan. We know that children learn in different ways, so we can also plan a time for them to be engaged in valuable educational play. And we are almost there. In conclusion, it is important for us as teachers to use developmentally and appropriate practices that takes into consideration the various needs, lifestyles, and abilities of our children, so that we can help them to counter challenging and achievable learning goals. Now that we have come to the end of our presentation, are there any questions? If there are no questions, I'd like to say thank you for attending this workshop, and I'm sure that we all learned something from it, and I'll send you copies of the presentation in your email addresses. Thank you again for coming, and we hope to see a change in our school.